growing up, in the summertime, when I was in high school, middle school, I used to love to go down to the warehouse and lift. In those days, everything was in 100-pound bags of sugar, no packages. The customer bought a 100-pound bag of sugar and they put it in a barrel, and the customer came in and shoveled it out. And they did that with cookies and flour. And I used to go down and I wanted to show these big husky guys that I could do this thing too, and I wasn't that big. And I'd be lifting these bags, and of course it was worthwhile. I was getting 25 cents an hour. So I was making as much as $10 a week. When I went and I enlisted in the Air Corps, and I was leaving, I told my mother I was leaving. She says, "You can't go without me, you don't have to make a bed." My father somehow started in a 5,000-foot warehouse. And I'm not sure where he got the money, but he was sociable. He belonged actually a place called the Elks, which most people never heard of probably, but it was a fraternal organization. And I think he met the president of the Worcester County Bank there and financed him. Then I was 8 years old, and I was at the beach with my mother, and my father calls and says, "We're wiped out. We had a flood. We're in a flood area in Worcester." And he says, "Of course, we have no insurance." So somehow, and I really don't know, he convinced somebody to let him move us into a 10,000-foot warehouse. Now, 10,000 feet, now this is on 3 floors. It's not 10,000 straight feet. And it's a warehouse where everybody is picking up a case and carrying it into the truck and then back. And I came back, and when I had come back out of the service, I went back to college, and I took a time study course. And they were using rollers. I said, "Rollers? Oh, that looks pretty good." So I came back and said to my father, "Why don't we put some rollers in? They can roll it instead of each man carrying a case." He turns to somebody, "This kid's gonna ruin me." But he let me spend $200 on these rollers. So you think you're sophisticated with your robots and hand trial, all that? This was real sophistication.
I did not think I was going to go in the wholesale grocery business. I thought I was going to be a doctor. And so I went to University of Pennsylvania, and I was pre-med, and I didn't like it. So
what happened?
I didn't like it. I didn't like the courses, and so my best friend, my roommate, was in Wharton, and he said, "Why don't you switch to Wharton?" So that I met my wife the first day of school, and we got married a week after we graduated, went on a 2-week honeymoon, and went to work.
Yeah, I said to Rick, "Aren't you going to get your MBA?" He says, "I want to get married, have children, and make some money." So we came into the business.
I found it very easy to work with my dad. I think I was very lucky, and he let me make a lot of decisions. We convinced my dad in 1980 that we should move to Brattleboro from Worcester, where the business was started in 1918. Basically, everything that could go wrong went wrong. I thought we were going to go out of business, and I said to my dad, "I'm sorry that I convinced you to move the business here." And he looked at me and he said, when I was a navigator in World War II, and we used to fly these planes at 17,000 feet, and he said they could hit you with a rifle. And he said one day, part of my job was after we dropped the bombs, I would go and take pictures out the bomb bay door. And a couple of years ago, my dad and I actually got to take a flight in a B-24, which was fun. And he said, and as I was going back, I took the pictures and I was going back to sit in my navigator's seat, and I slipped. And as I slipped and I looked up, there was a hole going in one side of the plane and out the other. And if I hadn't fallen, I'd probably be dead. So he said, "Rick, if they're not shooting at you, how bad can it be? So stop feeling sorry for yourself and go back to work." And I told that story a million times, and that is the consummate story about my dad. It's like if you do the right things and you work hard, things will work out. So that's the ultimate quality that I most admire in my dad.
You were very capable from the beginning, and you liked what I did. You liked calling on customers, talking to the bank. You liked all the same things that I did. So it made it easier to, bring you along